Leadtionary 2023. Live on Facebook at Bishop Gideon Titi-Ofei. Every Thursday at 1900 GMT.
Welcome to another episode of Leadtionary. My name is Michael Obodu, your guest host, sitting in for Bishop Titi-Ofei. And today we are going to be speaking to an astute academician with global track record that is so impressive. It's an honor to be speaking to him, particularly because he's the vice president of my campus, the school I studied in, Accra Business School. And I am so honored to be speaking to you, Professor. I almost called you Bishop. Professor Elvis Cornerstone. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's an honor to be talking to you.
Yes, my pleasure.
Okay, so I'm going to let you tell us about your track record, all about your academic journey and where you've gotten to now. Welcome again.
Thank you very much. Okay. I schooled in Ghana for my bachelor's program.
Okay.
I got admission with the University of Ghana. And at the time, I applied to pursue the BSc in Public Administration, BSc in Business. Okay. And at the time, we didn't really have a lot of the private universities in the country, and the competition was very, very intense at the time. Even students with the best grades could be offered courses that they never opted for in the first place. So I opted for business program. But when the admission came, I was offered to do in psychology, sociology, and philosophy. But luckily enough, I managed to also apply to UCC for BCom, also something business related, because of my business background at the A level. So classes began at Legon. So somewhere along the line, I got informed that UCC had written and that I had been offered an admission, to read a course, not in the area of BCom, but in the area of tourism. Okay. Tourism was new to UCC at the time. And the information I gathered, they wanted the best of students, to start with. I had ABC at the A level, A in government, B in business management, and then C in economics. So my intention was to, continue in that line. But that is what actually I was offered. My intention was to be able to change the course when I got to campus, which was the norm at the time. And that opportunity came, and I was given the chance to change the course from tourism to BCom. But this happened when we were getting to the end of the first semester, of the first year. I felt this school really, really put serious pressure on me, so I decided to just keep to the tourism program and then see how the years ahead will progress. But the good thing is that I wasn't so much surprised, because the tourism program also had a lot of business management models embedded. It's issues like marketing management, issues like human resource, all the core business models you can find in the business program can also be found in a tourism program. So I was a bit relaxed somewhere along the line, and then I managed to finish with the program. And then my first, job was with the Unit Trust Financial Services Limited.
The famous UT Bank.
The famous UT Bank. At the time, it wasn't a bank. It was a financial services that was only into loans.
You guys were very popular. For obvious reasons.
It was necessary at the time, And
that sounded like I'm wabbing.
So I was posted to the Tema branch as a project officer. And then 2 years after, and then I got promoted to the position of a credit manager.
2 years?
Yeah, 2 years after.
For a greenhorn?
Yes.
That's impressive.
To manage a whole sort of business loans. So I was managing a whole portfolio. And I had my own team that I was working with. I had project officers under me and loan monitoring officers that I was working with.
How did you pull that off for someone who did tourism in school and had just been in the job for 2 years?
Well, we can learn anything. And I believe strongly that with determination and with focus, you can be able to achieve whatever you want to. Yeah, so I was very disciplined. I was very committed to the work. I was learning, under my supervisors. My first manager over there had a first degree in English.
Interesting.
Yes, and the first job also was in the area of finance with UT. So it was easy for her to really, really understand where I was coming from. So she took a time also to teach me the trade. And I also humbled myself to make sure whatever I needed to learn, I could also learn very well. So I got promoted to the position of a credit manager. And 2 years after, I felt like developing myself further in the area of an academic qualification, knowing that my background was into tourism. And so I applied to the UK university. I saw that Manchester University and the University of Wales, Bangor, they were having a collaboration in the area of international finance. And so I did apply, and that was an online version because I wanted to maintain my job here in Ghana whilst pursuing the program.
Which year was this?
That was in the year 2006.
Well, those were early days for online learning.
Yes. But when the admission came, it rather came as a surprise that they wanted me on campus full time. And I never understood why, because the information, I saw from the website different from even the program I was given. When the admission came, I saw MSc in International Banking and Development Finance.
Okay.
So I was like, this is not what I applied for. I applied for international finance. But I went through the website, scanned through the content, and I realized, well, this is even more attractive, looking at where I wanted to be. And so I took the challenge, and a few savings that, I'd managed to gather over the years during my time with UT. I decided to use that to pay my school fees. And in those days, you have to pay a portion before you even apply for a visa. Yes, so I did pay, and then I got a visa to travel abroad. And then I got there, and it was very awesome. And one day I was in the computer lab and doing one of the assignments that we had been given. And then a colleague of mine just came over. I said, "Oh, Elvis, Shanti Chakravarti, the professor in economics, is looking for you." I said, "Oh, no, I don't know him." Because that professor never taught us.
Okay.
And they said, "Oh, you don't know Shanti?" So she said, "Okay, let's go." So she took me to Shanti's office. I said, "Elvis, this is Shanti." And then they said, "Oh, you're Elvis?" I said, "Yes." So I said, "Sit down." The first few words that came out of his mouth is like, "You don't know me. I know you." And it said, "I've gone through the university system, and then I've seen your grades. And in fact, one of your lecturers, Professor Williams, told me about you, how good you are, and the fact that you are very committed to your studies, and your grades are also impressive. And I've seen those grades myself. I've been looking for someone to work with in the area of research. And are you ready to stay after your master's, to pursue a PhD so that we can do research together?" And at the point, I kept quiet, for a while. Is this really for me? My intention was to just, finish my master's program, and then come back home and then see what the future holds. So I accepted the challenge. The next question he asked, did your company bring you to the UK for your studies? Have you been bonded, to any company? I said no. So he said, "Okay, then in that case, you are free to stay." Yeah. And at the time, he wanted research in the area of development economics, because the research area he wanted us to focus on is the area of poverty reduction. He had done a work in that area before, and he wanted us to further. And so he thought, "Oh, I would be the best person to work with." So before I left his office, he gave me a few papers, to go and read. We were also preparing for examination at the time. I was working on my assignments and also to get ready for, final year exam. He said, "I know examination is just around the corner. Take your time. After the exam, you can just read through the documents, see whether this is an area you really want to research into, and then get back to me, and then we could start the process." At the time, he was looking for funding from the UK government. And so I got back to him and then I said, well, I've read through the documents. Some of the areas are new to me, but I think I have the capacity to be able to learn what I've never learned in the years. And so that is good.
So let's track the trails. First off, you started with your qualification in tourism. You worked in the financial sector, grew to become a credit manager. You went to do international banking
and development finance.
And now you're venturing into economics.
Yes.
Wow.
And so what he said was, I'm good to work with you. Your grades are perfect. Your research methods is okay. At the time, the minimum score that is expected of any PhD candidates for research methods should be 60. Anything below 60, you will never get admission for a PhD program. And I think this is universally applicable in a lot of universities in Europe and elsewhere. And so he was more concerned about the strength of my research methods. And so he was very pleased that my grades were very impressive. And he looked at other areas of my course and said, well, I will work with you. And so together, we worked on the funding, but unfortunately, we never got the funding. And so we had to change into other options. It's okay. Since the funding didn't go through, let's see how the university itself can give us funding so that you could stay and pursue your PhD at the bank with the Bangor Business School. And so through him, I was able to get some kind of funding to stay home. Because the UK funding didn't go through, because the amount of money he was looking for, the quantum was much higher than what the university was giving for my PhD program. So we decided to change focus from development economics to financial economics, the area of financial development. And this is more in line with my master's program in the area of international banking and development finance. And so we started. And somewhere along the line, and then the deputy head of the department contacted me that, Elvis, you also need to work for the department. Your first assignment will be to be marking my scripts. And so anytime he finishes class, he will call me, Elvis, come for the scripts. Then he will say, do not mark all the script before you send me the scores. Mark the first 10. Put it in an Excel format and send it to me. Then he will look at the scores. Then he will get back to me. Elvis says, okay, continue. The reason is that he had been teaching these courses over the years. And he always has an expectation of what to expect from the students. And so giving me this kind of task for the very first time, he needed to be sure that I was not marking below a certain standard or too high. And so that is the reason why I wanted him to always get back to him for the first few scripts, and then he'll say continue. And so it was okay with my performance, and studying at the same time, researching at the same time. And then somewhere along the line, they said, okay, Elvis, you have progressed from market scripts into other things. Now I want you to teach one of the courses I taught you when you were pursuing your master's. You'll be teaching financial econometrics.
Oh.
In fact,
that course.
We've heard a lot about it.
I don't miss it one bit. Okay.
Yes. In fact, when they said it, my legs started shaking because I know this is a very difficult subject. You always have to break down complex concepts into its simplest meaning, for students to understand. Yeah. And so he said, don't worry, Elvis. I will be teaching the theory, and then you'll be handling the tutorials, in other words, the practicals in the computer room. And so he prepared me well enough. He said, you always have the option to come and sit in my class again and try to understand certain concepts you never understood in your time as a student. So once in a while, I was taken to the classroom, and then during the time of tutorials, then I'll just go and handle the class. That is how my teaching career actually started. And then my PhD supervisor also started engaging me to also teach tutorials for him in the area of business economics. Okay. At the time, it was very difficult, especially for some of the international students who had weak background in the area of economics, especially the mathematical aspect of it. And so I was asked to introduce a supplementary class for some of these students because lecturers were always denied of the enjoyment of their own models because students find it very difficult to grasp some of the basic concept in class. So the idea is to organize this supplementary class for business economy students to allow them appreciate the concepts that were being covered in class. So this session was organized for a whole semester whilst they were still pursuing their business economics program. And it went very well. And so my supervisor went to university management and said, look at the performance of these students after organizing supplementary classes for them by Elvis. I think we should inculcate this new program into all our sessions. And it has remained like that to today. So that is one particular impact. I can't say I was able to, live with the students.
You must be proud of yourself.
Yes, yes. So that is basically how it actually started. And then finally, I managed to finish with my PhD program. The moment I finished, then I wanted to work with an international organization because of my background in the area of international banking and then also development finance. So I started listing down a group of organizations, the IMF, the World Bank, the Bank for International Settlements, in Switzerland, which is basically like the central bank for all central banks across the world. And also the African Development Bank, which had then, moved from Cote d'Ivoire because of the civil war into Tunisia. Okay. So I was in Ghana briefly on a holiday, and then I had a call from Tunisia that they wanted an international consultant as a research consultant, for the research and economics department of the African Development Bank. So the interview was held over the phone. Right there, I was told, you got the job.
Wow. How long was that interview?
It was for about 45 minutes. Yeah. Right there, I was told, you got a job. And so they said, we know you're in Ghana on a holiday. When is your holiday coming to an end? So I told them, it's okay. We wouldn't want to cut your holiday short. Just enjoy yourself in Ghana. When are you going back to the UK? As soon as I'm done with my holidays, okay. So I left Ghana, went back to the UK, packed my things, and then I left to Tunisia. Like I said already, the bank had relocated from Cote d'Ivoire because of the civil war to Tunisia. So I was in Tunisia, as an international consultant for the economics, unit of the research department.
A very eventful life. And things seem to work out fine for you.
Thank you very much. So I was in Tunisia, and then the Arab Spring also started. It started in Tunisia. True. Then it moved to other areas in North Africa, to Libya and so many other places, and then we know of Syria. And so at the point, we were asked to work from home. In Tunisia. And it was very bad somewhere along the line. And because of some kind of ideologies the citizens had, concerning these foreign nationals. Yeah. So it's also bad that we needed cover. There was no need for us to go to the office. So we're all working from home. So somewhere along the line, my boss called. He said, Elvis, would you want to continue working from here? Or you want to go back to the UK and work from there? I said, I'm here in Tunisia. I prefer being here to finish my task. So I was able to complete my project. Then it got renewed for another period. We wanted to stay further. So I stayed in Tunisia further. In the course of my work, then my university, where I schooled, my master's and PhD, called. Elvis, we need you back in the UK as a full-time staff of the Bangor Business School. We know you're in Tunisia, consulting for the African Development Bank, but we also need you here with the skill you've gathered over the years and your expertise, and even what you are doing now in Africa, we need that kind of expertise in the university. Please think about it and get back to us. So
how did that feel?
I felt very good.
Okay.
Very, very, very good. So I left Tunisia, to embrace a challenge. I went back to the UK as a full-time lecturer. Not too long, then Jimpa also contacted me.
Oh.
In Ghana.
Everybody wants a piece.
The business school of Jimpa, when they contacted me, said, you have pursued courses that is so limited in Ghana. In other words, we don't have so many experts in this area, especially financial econometrics. At the time, you could count the number of professors and lecturers who could teach those kind of courses. So he said, we need you to come and support us. But let's start with our sandwich program. Gimpa used to organize this program that were being taught only by foreign lecturers and professors. And so they decided to include me in that kind of pool. So I used to visit Ghana every now and then, normally January, June, and January, on the MBA program. And they will normally fly you in and then host you on campus. And then when you are done, after 3 weeks, they fly you back. So they normally fly a lot of Ghanaians who are into academia in the US and certain part of Europe and the UK. And so I happen to be part of them. And so that is basically how my engagement with Ghana in terms of academia started. So at the time, I was enjoying my coming back home to also contribute in my quota to the education sector in this country. So one of the visits, then I was called to the dean's office. And then they said, Elvis, it is time for you to come back home fully. I think we need you here fully.
Really?
Could you leave UK and come over? We'll ship your items. And then they offer something wonderful.
They could match up your...
Not to match up equally, but that is something that could make you comfortable.
So you were selling for less, technically? Were you?
I was confused at a point, but eventually I decided to come over.
But what would make you toe such a line, leaving comfort zone where you're earning probably much more to come back to Ghana?
That is the notion most people have. It's not about the money.
Isn't it?
In UK, the system is not about money. Most people will tell you, those in academia, UK universities always tell you, whatever money you make, depending on how you live, the money will always go back to the system. You can always find out, even on the internet, the average salary of a lecturer in the UK, a full-time lecturer, to put that way. And you have to look even at the costs. Okay. What could have kept me there would have been the resources. Those were the things that Gimpa could not match up with. And truly, when I came, I noticed that there were a lot of gaps in terms of infrastructure, resources that you need to allow you perform very well as an academic, and even for the students. And so I struggled a little bit for the first year. So about a year and a half, another university in Switzerland, we're looking for a professor, a full professor.
You are just a hot cake, man. Wow.
So they were looking for a full professor and also an African region director. I did apply. The interview happened through Skype. Okay. Those were the early days of Skype.
Skype, yeah.
So I got a job. And I left Ghana once again.
How long were you at Gimpa?
For about a year and a half.
Year and a half, okay. So UK, Tunisia, UK, Ghana, and now Switzerland. You're a big one.
And the Swiss university, had campuses across Europe, Asia, and Africa, and they still do have. And Afghanistan happened to be their biggest campus. So before I could start as a full-time professor, they asked, would you want to go as a visiting professor to Afghanistan?
Okay.
To see how our system works. Afghanistan. So I took the challenge. And then I left Ghana to Afghanistan.
Was it at the time where we knew Afghanistan for where it was then?
Yes.
And you went?
Yes.
You are there, you know.
When I got there, Afghanistan had been in war for 40 years.
You really have some level of tenacity, because when Tunisia was in hot waters, you stayed. When Afghanistan was boiling, you went.
I went.
Why? Is it the adrenaline rush?
No, not really.
But what?
You need to have that kind of inner peace within you. That look, this will go well. And I always had that peace. That is what motivated me to go to Afghanistan. And so I went for a month. And then I came back to Ghana. So Switzerland called me. Welcome back to your home country, Ghana. How did you feel when we were in Afghanistan? I said, it was good. So then my timetable was sent over to me whilst I was in Ghana. And Afghanistan was always on the timetable. Like I said earlier, it's a university with campuses across Europe, Asia, and Africa. And Afghanistan happened to be one of the biggest campuses. So any full-time professor, you always have to pass through Afghanistan. And so I received my timetable. And then I was asked to start January 2016. So that is how my engagement with the Swiss University began. And I was still the Africa Regional Director. So I was with them for some years. And somewhere along the line, I decided to visit Ghana and then to do a few stuff for myself. Then I went back. Then I opted for a sabbatical leave and was granted. So whilst in Ghana, I felt like, oh, what can I offer to support other institutions? That is where I met Bishop Gideon Titi-Ofei. So I started with Accra Business School as an adjunct, whilst I was also doing my own thing whilst on sabbatical. So Bishop at the time said, Prof, I wouldn't want you to go back home. That's the way he put it. I really, 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 really want to work with you as the dean of the Accra Business School. And so I smiled initially. And then later I got back to him and I said, you know, I'm on sabbatical and I still receive pay from Switzerland. It would be unfair for me to call them and say, look, I've gotten a new job in Ghana, so I want to stay. And Bishop understood. He said, yeah, you know, so I went back after 2 years. I was and still with my normal job, the teaching, fly in and out, country to country. And then the COVID surfaced. At the time I was in the US, we had not heard about COVID so much in Africa. So I was in Ghana somewhere along the line on a short holiday. And then when we started hearing of the COVID, not too long I left Ghana to Afghanistan because of my timetable.
Again?
As soon as I left Ghana, then I was told the borders in Ghana is now closed. Not too long also, Afghanistan also closed its borders. I was supposed to be in Afghanistan for 2 months. I stayed there for 5 months. So I was there doing online teaching because all schools were closed. Now, at this point in time, I had to stay to continue with research and also teach online. Afghanistan opened its borders, and then I decided to leave to the US because Ghana's borders were still closed. I was in the US when Ghana also opened its borders in the month of September. And then in October, I got back home. And then I told Bishop I'm back home. He said, Prof, welcome back home. It's good to have you again. And I said, I have a position for you. I want you to be my vice president. That is how my position with Accra Business School as a vice president actually started.
Interesting. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll delve in deeper into all of this. You're still watching Leadtionary. My name is Michael Obodu, sitting in for Bishop Titi-Ofei. This was supposed to be an introductory statement, but it's been so filled with all the nuggets of leadership that you can think about, from focus to tenacity and the likes. And I know after the break, we'll get to delve in deeper into the life and person of Professor Elvis Cornerstone, who's an astute academician with global experience from all that he shared with us. He's the vice president of the Accra Business School. When we come back, we'll bring you more. Stay with us.
Leadtionary 2023, live on Facebook at Bishop Gideon Titi-Ofei, every Thursday at 1900 GMT.
Hi, this is Bishop Gideon Titi-Ofei. I am the official senior pastor for all pastors and leaders under 40. You know, in September, I am locking down all pastors and leaders under 40 in a 3-day boot camp dubbed Lockdown. You see, there will be no phone calls, no social media, no contact to the outside world. Just 3 days between you, myself, and Jesus in a lockdown leadership boot camp. We are praying every day. We are studying the word every day. We are fasting every day. Life will change. Jesus will visit you. Your ministry will change. At the Sheepfold Prayer Chamber near Accra Business School off the Sprinters Road in Accra. Call the numbers on the screen now, or go to the link provided and register. This is your chance to revive your ministry, your chance to get back on track. Listen, God has given me a special message for you, and God will visit you. I look forward to having you. Remember, it is lockdown September 20th to 22nd September. Arrival is on Tuesday evening, 19th September at 5 p.m. Free accommodation provided. So, you know something? It's a dormitory style accommodation. So come with your bed sheets and other things, but we will provide you mattresses. And it's going to be a time in the Lord. I enjoy the 2 previous ones we have had been blessing to many ministries. We keep receiving their testimonies, and I want you to be blessed as well. God bless you.
Leadtionary 2023, live on Facebook at Bishop Gideon Titi-Ofei, every Thursday at 1900 GMT.
Yeah, welcome back to Leadtionary. My name is Michael Obodu, your guest host, sitting in for Bishop Titi-Ofei. And we'll continue our conversation with Professor Elvis Cornerstone, who is the Vice President of the Accra Business School. He's been telling us about his life story. To now, we're going to zero in into his leadership journey and experience, and obviously glean from all, especially the international exposure that he's had over the years. Prof, welcome back.
Thank you, man.
Okay, so I have a few questions. First off, it's about your UT experience. You know, UT Bank, or UT Financial Service, for what it was known for, had a very peculiar work culture, especially because of the influence of its leader, who we know had some military background. How did working there shape you as an individual and as a leader?
It is always good to work with the military guys because of the discipline. They will inculcate that in you, and they will make sure that you sacrifice for the job. I remember Kofi Mabi will always tell you, UT is your first family. Whatever other family you have is secondary. So you are conscientized in that kind of frame, just to make sure that you give your best to the institution. And that is the beginning of how I started to develop my leadership skills. That you need to work hard. You need to commit to the job and to the organization that fits you and your family. And just to make sure that organization is also doing very well, it's only through that you can also take off yourself and whatever concerns you. So UT life actually shaped me in many ways, because when you look around you in the organization, at whatever level, at various branches, you see all the military guys around. Discipline, hard work, time management. And you can take off all those attributes and skills. They will make sure you get there. So that is how it started, UT.
You've spoken about giving to the company, but did it make it worth your while?
They did. Especially in the area of leadership development. UT always make sure that you attend the best of training programs that you need to survive on the job. There to me, I'm sure you have heard a lot about him, was one of the guys who used to train us a lot. But that's customer service, from whichever area, strategic management. Almost every month, there was a training being organized for staff. And Kofi Amwabi himself will always sit in the program. Something you hardly see in most organizations. CEOs do not sit in short training programs. But Kofi Amwabi will always sit in the training programs, and so do the other managers. So they will develop you very well to shape you to make sure that you are up to the task so far as your leadership, potentials are concerned.
Okay, so based on that, what would you say is your number one advice or tip to business leaders, persons at the forefront running businesses, running organizations? What must you focus on as a leader?
I'll make sure, or let me say that I'll advise them to make sure that the competencies that the staff need in the area of developing themselves for the short term, for the medium term, and also for their own long-term goals are always realized. And one of the best ways they could do this is to make sure that they identify their needs by way of training programs to let them fit into the organization's culture very well. Because those were some of the key culture attributes of UT, that the staff and the managers are well developed to perform well on their roles as leaders and as managers. So that's the sort of advice that I will give to any managers or any leader out there, that developments of managers and leaders should be key as part of the organization's culture.
Interesting. Now, I noticed I remember in your story, you spoke about this economics lecturer who showed interest in you and clearly created opportunities for you, guided you. How crucial would you say, from your experience, mentorship and coaching is in one's leadership development journey?
Yeah. I will try to relate this question to the relational type of leadership. I believe in leadership that actually contribute to everyone's need within the organization by way of selecting and identify the loopholes and the weaknesses of the people that are working under you, and how you can build them up to the level that is needed so that they can also contribute to the objectives and the missions of the organization. And that is exactly what I got from my mentor in the UK. Like I said, we started at a very basic level. Elvis, these are the scripts. These are the marking schemes. Don't mark all at a go. Start with the first 10. Get back to me. And then he will advise. He will suggest. This is okay. This should be done this way. Now continue. And it continued for a while, for a whole semester. And then when the trust was built, when they realized that I've now built the muscles to be able to progress to the next level, then I was given the chance to now teach a whole class by way of starting from a tutorial class. And then it developed into other areas. And so mentorship is very important. And I believe that is something that every leader should be able to gather and also help their followers to be able to do what is expected of them, because that is the only way they can also be able to understand the vision and also the objectives of the organization, without which it will be very difficult for those following you to be able to achieve what is expected of them.
Interesting. Now, you have seen leadership from various fronts, locally here in Ghana, across countries. Would you say leadership is necessarily universal?
I must say that it is, especially when it comes to the relational aspect that I just mentioned. Gone were the days when you talk about leadership, you focus only on one individual, the autocratic sort of leadership. But the dynamism of what we find ourselves in these modern times expect us to go beyond that sort of leadership style. You need to select, you need to identify the weaknesses of those working around you. You need to bring everyone on board to be able to buy into the objectives and into the mission of what the organization wants to achieve. And this is supposed to be universal, especially if you find the organization across various countries or even branches across even the same country. You expect this sort of skills to be embedded across the organization. And that is what makes it universal. And whichever area of leadership you find yourself across the globe, you're supposed to apply some of these skills to make it worthwhile, especially for followers, that they can help organization realize its objectives. So I believe leadership is supposed to be universal.
Okay. So you have seen various facets of it, especially in various sub-regions. How do you deal with the cultural differences, the behavioral differences, and the orientation of people and all of that? How do you manage that along your path, leading people?
It was difficult initially, especially when I found myself in Afghanistan somewhere along the line. There was a time after my class, a student walked to me who was at the time 35 years. And he said, "Prof, I'm 35 years old. I was born into war. We have been in war for the past 40 years. Life can be very, very stressful here. You leave home for work. There's no guarantee that you'll come back home safely. It's only by grace that we leave home and come back every day. So we are already stressed. We are looking for this qualification just to help us, get good jobs, to take care of our families. Today we can be there, tomorrow we are no more. You don't know where bombs, will strike at any point in time. So do not stress us with the finance courses. Afghans, we are not used to mathematics. Mathematics is very difficult for us. In your finance courses, we see a lot of formulas. We see a lot of quantitative techniques. Bring it down to our level. Don't stress us too much." That is where it hit me. The cultural differences are very, very, very important when it comes to leadership. So when even students are failing, you even feel it. That these guys are stressed. Now they have to go back to do resit. How are they able to manage? And the pass mark is 50. And so then that is where I realized that, look, we don't have to take it for granted. In other places, the pass mark for a master's program in the UK is 40. How can Afghanistan, that is into war, have a pass mark for a master's program at 50? Look at India. The pass mark is 50 or 40. They have all the resources. Afghanistan war. I was expecting the pass mark to be somewhere around 30 to make it less stressful for them. So the cultural diversity, the environment you find yourself, you need to know how to manage it very well, even as a professor. That even when you are setting examination questions, you need to take all this into consideration. The way you mark scripts in the UK, the way you mark script in other jurisdictions, you need to have a very flexible hand in other areas like Iraq. So these were some of the things that shaped me to really appreciate cultural diversity even in the classroom.
Wow. So from what you've said, it means that you cannot be an effective leader without empathy.
No. You need to feel for the people. So students were coming to classes with pistols. Oh yes, my brother. Because you finish class and you may never get back home. The Taliban were also there. And so somewhere along the line, when the students get to the main gates, their pistols will be collected from them. Each of them had unique codes. Yeah. So after class, and then you get back your pistols. They had knives on them. And that's a kind of environment that I used to work in. Very dangerous environments. So everyone over there, you must learn how to shoot. You must know how to use the knife. Not in a bad way, but for protection. There were instances where students I knew left campus and got knifed. Some of them, you never heard from them again. You never heard of them again. There was a time I was going to Afghanistan to go and teach. As soon as I arrived, on the same day, there was a suicide, a bomb blast in the mosque. Over 100 students, over 100 people who were praying on the particular Friday died. So my class the following day was cancelled because the country was into mourning. When they come to class, you could see from their faces, they were tensed. They can't concentrate. It was a very difficult moment. Even you, as a professor, you feel for the people. Some may have lost their wives, some may have lost their children, some have lost their colleagues. That was how serious it was. So you need to understand the situation and know how to manage them, even in the classroom. Sometimes you'll be in class and you hear a bomb blast, you'll feel it. The whole city will shake. Depending on the type of bomb, you need to understand the situation and manage the class very well, manage the students very well. So the day the student walk up to me and say, Prof, please understand our situation and don't stress us. That day, I had a different mentality and realized the environment I was in. There was no way I could apply the principles in the UK into the Afghanistan situation. So that is basically how cultural diversity can shape you as a leader and how you manage the students and even the class.
Interesting. But you see, with all that you've said, it then still raises the question, how then do you as a leader learn to decouple yourself from the present situation that you may be exposed to and still focus on leading? Because in as much as your students felt the pressure of the environment, you also felt it too. So how do you manage that to still be the leader despite the shocks?
That kind of empathy, you need to have it for your followers. You need to have it for the people that are working around you. And aside that, there was a course I did whilst I was in the UK, internationalization of managing students. The UK environment is an international environment with students from different walks of life. And so seminars are frequently held on how to manage the classroom. So those sorts of courses and workshops are mostly organized for the lecturers and the professors. We've always been encouraged to attend those workshops. I learned a lot of skills. I got a lot of knowledge from some of those workshops. So when the opportunity came along the line, those things always came back to mind on how to apply them in the situation.
Takes us back to your earlier point about training.
It is very important because somewhere along the line, you have to apply them in the classroom, in the organization, and wherever you find yourself leading as a leader.
Interesting. If you just tuned in, this is Leadtionary. My name is Michael Obudu, sitting in for your regular host, Bishop Titi-Ofei. We are talking to Professor Elvis Cornerstone, the Vice President of the Accra Business School, sharing with us some nuggets of wisdom on leadership from his many years of experience as an academic leader and a professional. Some of the tips he shared with us so far when it comes to leadership is the fact that you cannot understate the relevance of mentorship, and you must focus on training your staff to ensure their complete buy-in to the company's vision and goal, and also how important empathy is in leading your people and ensuring that they follow you through to the end. Those are very interesting tips you shared with us. But let me ask you again, with the advent of, for instance, technology, would you say leadership has evolved, or it's still what it really is from a basic level?
I believe leadership has evolved, and the COVID-19 has even shaped it even in a better way. Like before, we only knew of in-person sort of work environments. Today, there are so many organizations, because of technology, to be able to help them manage costs, now work remotely. When I was in Tunisia, I told you when the Arab Spring started, we were asked to work from home. Technology played a very good role in that manner. So imagine if that wasn't in place, how it would have been difficult for us to be committing to work every day in that kind of situation. So the evolving of technology in today's environment is very, very important and key so far as leadership is concerned. And it cuts across every industry, and especially in the area of education. When the COVID-19 started, I believe strongly a lot of institutions struggled. But places like Accra Business School, we have guys who are very, very good in the IT. They managed to weather the storms. And even I want to say that even the numbers of Accra Business School even increased during the time of COVID. Quite a number of institutions in Africa went down by numbers, and some are still struggling to get back. So yes, to get back to what you asked, technology is very, very key. And it's a very good component when it comes to leadership across most organizations in today's environment.
Okay. My follow-up question to that, we've seen how much of a game changer technology has been in leading people. And to some extent also, if it's reduced micromanagement. Does that mean that we probably got it wrong from the beginning when it comes to leading people?
No, I don't think we got it wrong. You always need people to also perform in the area of technology, because technology can never work on its own. The same way some years back, when accounting in the area of computing started, most people thought that we're going to need less accountants. But they used to use these famous words like garbage in, garbage out. You still need the human factor to allow technology to perform. And so yes, technology is very important in these days, but we still need a skill that will allow it to work. Because the more we use it, the more we grow as an organization. The more we expand in resources, the more we expand in branches, the more we expand across the globe, and we therefore need more. But the good thing is that even as we use technology, we should also realize that it comes along with cost.
True.
So if you want to lay off workers, thinking you are reducing costs, you still incur more costs because of the infrastructure that you have to build as you go along. So that aspect, we can never take it off.
Interesting. Now, you have seen various phases of leadership and the likes. What's your assessment of leadership amongst young people in Ghana?
Most leaders among the young, among the youth, to put it that way, who want to climb up the ladder so quickly, they don't want to go through the process. And so after a certain number of years, realize that there's still a gap in the skill that they have gathered over the years, and therefore they encounter many challenges and they don't have the capacity to be able to weather those storms. And so that is the advice that I will give. Go through the process. The years you need to be able to gather whatever skill you need, do not cut short. Moreover, learn a lot of soft skills. Even whilst you are in school as a student, you will never get all the skills in the classroom by way of the regular academic program. Workshops, seminars, yes, and in so many areas, you'll be able to learn so many things like how to manage time and the many other soft skills that you need as a student. These things will always come back when you get a very good job. And you also need them as a leader as you climb up the ladder. So I will advise young leaders, don't rush into climbing up the ladder so quickly. Go through the process, learn whatever it takes, and don't lose sight of the soft skills that you need to help you efficient as a leader as you go along.
Interesting. Now, earlier you mentioned inner peace when it came to the whole Afghanistan conversation. And I sound like I'm teasing, but you sound like a preacher. So let me just find out, how important would you say spirituality is, especially from your angle in your leadership journey?
You asked a question somewhere along the line, how could I have gone Afghanistan? I'm a Christian and I believe in spiritual things. When it comes to travels, I don't make a move until I've prayed about the trip and heard about the trip from God before I take a step. And my experience shows that I will always have to see myself wherever I'm going in the spirit before I embark on my journey. The day I don't see myself in whichever country I want to visit, it means I have not been given the green light. And if I force myself to go, it doesn't go very well on those trips. I struggle. But the moment I see myself spiritually in those countries, then the green light has been given. That there's an assignment I need to go to achieve. And with those trips, it always ends up very well. So in terms of spirituality, I believe in them. And those were some of the things that I saw spiritually that motivated me to really embark on the journey to Afghanistan. I never backed down on those journeys.
No kidding, but Afghanistan obviously couldn't have been just adrenaline. There had to be something extraordinary pushing you there. But tell me though, I'm curious. So you are an academician. Usually you people are not too religious because of your very liberal approach to life and all that. So what was the turning point for you?
I believe strongly that my spirituality and my commitment to the things of God is what brought many opportunities along my way. The favors I received whilst in the UK, the scholarship opportunity for my PhD, and the chances I got to teach in the white-dominated environments, the first black to teach in that business school. I believe these were favors. They were not because I was so unique. And when we go back to my background, I never had a business background in my education. And also for me to have been picked to play a crucial role in the life of the business school in those countries must be the God factor. And so it's not by my unique nature as a person, but it's just a grace, to put it that way.
So you can never underrule the relevance of the supernatural.
No.
Interesting. I could listen to you all day, but let me ask my final question. So how have you balanced leadership, work life, and family life? How's it working out for you?
When it comes to all these aspects of life, we need to understand that we can never go without them. We can never do without them. The skill of even managing multi-complexities within even an organization, different departments, different branches, even as a leader. Those same traits and those same skills can be translated in managing the home as a family person, in managing the work life, and even other aspects of life that always come along your way. So I believe strongly that all these skills over the years and the many tasks that you always have to play as a person also play a very good role in allowing you to manage all these things as a leader.
But some people say that one must give either work or family. Is there really a fine balance ever?
I don't believe so. We work because of family. Most people will tell you they work not because they enjoy the work. Most people will tell you, I work because I need money to take care of my family. It's a rude way to put it, but most people, that is a fundamental. I finished school, I need to work. Why do you need to work? You need to take care of yourself, you need to take care of your family. And so you must be able to manage the two. You can't do one without the other. If the other suffers, then it means you cannot be able to manage multi-complexities of things that you find around yourself.
Interesting. I said my last question, but let me toss this in. You've literally seen it all, done it all. What is next for you in your next phase of life?
We'll see what the future holds. For now, I believe where I am, I'm very comfortable, the Accra Business School. I want to still use my skill and my experience and my expertise to help the people that I work with, very wonderful people. I practice their relational style of leadership and identify where the weaknesses are to see how best, to strengthen areas where those sort of expertise are needed. And I still want to continue in this role, want to continue in that manner and help Accra Business School realize its long-term objectives. We have the vision to go global with all the many programs that are coming on board and also to open other campuses. Bishop always has that dream. And I want to still position myself to help in those areas of his vision. And so in terms of career aspirations, a long-term plan, I think this is where I am and I want to focus my attention in all these areas so far as my position is concerned. As to any other areas, we'll see what the future holds and what God brings our way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So that was Professor Elvis Cornerstone, the Vice President of Accra Business School, sharing with us from his rich world of experience in leadership and academia across the globe. This has been a fantastic conversation. My name is Michael Obudu. I'm a broadcast journalist, business journalist with TV3. Sitting in for your regular host, Bishop Titi-Ofei. This has been an amazing time. Keep your dial locked here. As always, please stay safe.
Leadtionary 2023, live on Facebook at Bishop Gideon Titi-Ofei, every Thursday at 1900 GMT.